Ahoy, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's the BBC Spews Live, the only BBC Spews these days, because Susan has got me by the plums, hasn't she? And antagonistic Bistic has already been thrown off Twitter. It's a funny old game, isn't it? Basically, you know what? This can lead me into briefly what I was going to talk about with Russia. I think the simple fact is, right, Putin is like the people of my political views, i.e. floating around the middle, that don't want to accept the fact that we've already lost, right? I was listening to GB News and they had this fucking Lieutenant General on. So obviously he was a fucking idiot. He was a Lieutenant General. And as far as the go, I quite liked him because he said a few amusing things that were true. One of them being, it wasn't so bad for the troops' morale when 2-star and 3-star generals get killed. He said it's actually quite good for the Ukrainians' morale and it's quite good for the Russians' morale because the rank and file don't care. He was fucking right about that. So he was more astute than most generals. But I think that I was proved right again because he was saying to Mark Stein, oh, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming. And I was like, a certain angry fucking bootneck has been saying for 4 weeks at least. Well, you know what I've said. Force multipliers. It's what modern weaponry is. What did I say? They can't take Ukraine. They've got modern weaponry being shipped over by a dozen different nations. If the United States, with all of its wealth and power and a coalition of willing allies, couldn't hold Afghanistan, the Russians can't take Ukraine. It's a fucking obvious, which is dead weird because he said, oh, no one saw this coming. It's like, well, yeah, okay, nobody above the rank of fucking sergeant major, because any of the NCOs know what they're doing. But yeah, it seems like the talking heads were wrong again, as usual. But obviously that's what Bootneck's been saying for a month. So yeah, fucking nobody saw it coming. Nobody that's on telly, but plenty of people on YouTube. Plenty of normal people with military experience who fucking know, who have an iota of common sense. I mean, in hindsight, how does everybody not see this? There's so many parallels with Afghanistan. The Russian economy, you need coin more than you need people to win a war. The Russian economy is like it's worse than the Italians. The Navy's shit. They haven't got, they're fucking useless. So I don't understand why everybody, well, I do understand why everybody was saying that. It's because they've turned the Russians into the bogeymen. And obviously you need to have an excuse. Like if Joe Biden wants to spend another $1 trillion on tanks, he needs to go, yeah, but what about the Russians? Because he's not allowed to slag the Chinese off. So, yeah, it's bollocks. War is obviously why are we still playing? Well, this is what I've talked about many times, gone wrong, doll. Why are we still... When you slag off one side, it doesn't mean you like the other. This is, again, what I've said. How many times have I said this in the last month? Because I'm sick of this infantile attack people are making, where you criticise Biden and therefore you're pro-Putin. Like I've said, it's fucking childish. It's like saying I can have prostate cancer or bollock cancer. Which do I want? So I pick the bollock cancer and they go, you've always been pro-bollock cancer. I'm not. I don't need to talk about that anymore because it's childish. You don't need to pick a side. If the game is rigged, the only way to win is to not play the game. So that's my position on Russia. At no point has anybody with a fully functioning brain sided all out with Putin because, like I said, things like the polonium poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko, full on like that is like a monstrous fucking crime where you're poisoning innocent people there. But it doesn't mean you have to be pro-war. People are just stupid. And the Russian and the Ukrainians are well dodgy. Like, we know this. Again, anyone who watches this channel, not just my channel, Rotten Politics, anybody who's a normal, reasonable person who just reads the news and deduces logical, reasonable things from their own brain has been aware of this for years. Ukraine is as bent as Elton John's cock. There's nepotism, cronyism, corruption, Nazi battalions, fucking you name it. So don't tell me I have to be pro-Ukraine. Doesn't mean I'm pro-Putin or pro-Russia. What British and American citizens prefer the Russians to their own? Probably less than about 0.5%. Probably about as rare as neo-Nazis in the West this day and age. You know, but there's the second most common misnomer. Everyone's a white supremacist. I mean, it's childish. Also, well, there we go. I'll advertise. Rotten Politics, no vids for him because he's got the man flu. So you'll have to watch this instead. And also, please stop talking about Will Smith. I've had like grown men who I'm mates with texting me saying, oh, fucking hell, did you see Will Smith? I don't want to talk about it. All I'll say is for 60 seconds, I watched the video and I was astounded everybody thought it was real. He turns around, he's got a massive shit-eating grin on his face. Look at it in slow motion and pause it. He's smiling, he hit him. Turns around, he's got a big daft grin on his face. He goes, you can see him compose, he'll chat, look a bit serious as he's walking back to his seat. It's bollocks. And have none of you lads ever seen a fight? I've seen thousands. If a bloke's genuinely angry, his face is twisted in rage. He turns around, he's got a big grin on his face. No security gets involved. And he slaps him. Blokes don't slap each other, they punch each other. The whole fucking thing was set up, even down to Chris Rock being quite, you could see, they all knew it was happening. And he was like, oh, that was the greatest moment in TV history. There was no genuine hatred and anger there, or else they'd have had to pull him off him. So it's bollocks. So stop talking about it, because it's shit. Next, no, 90 seconds tops, Blue Van Man. Honest. Total bollocks. So stop going on about it. Fucking blokes who I'm friends with texting me about that. I was like, do you subscribe to Hello magazine as well, you silly twat? Like, who gives a shite? Ooh, actors. Yeah, he's an actor. It was only the shouting as well. It was the shouting that made it. Everyone laughed when it initially went on because they knew it was bollocks. And then when he sat down in the chair, he thought, I'll better egg the pudding some more. And he did a bit of shouting. Yeah, you don't talk about my fucking wife. Bollocks. Bollocks. Absolutely shite. So fuck off. If you think that was real, you've never seen two blokes have a fight. Salty Cracker, yeah, I watched Salty Cracker. Again, the reckon there's a lot of that going on. I also watched Chris Thrall. Again, proves what I'm saying to you lot, right? The only way, if the game is rigged, don't play the game. The Ukrainians are not professional enough and as a result, likable enough to be the good guys. This isn't Star Wars. It ain't fucking Luke Skywalker, virtuous sister fucking Luke and his evil demonic dad. It's two bunches of cunts. They've got full-blown Nazis in the Azov battalion. And that's not a conspiracy theory. Peter Hitchens, again, credit where it's due. Bootneck's always right because he listens to Peter Hitchens. Let me just admit it. People think I'm astute because I was right about Ukraine. I was right about COVID. It's because I listen to Peter Hitchens. I just have to admit it. Like, of all the columnists I listen to, he's the best. And he was talking about the Azov battalion and the little Nazi insignias on their shoulders 3 weeks ago. The bloke fucking knows what he's talking about. If it wasn't the fact he's over 60 and he's a little bit curmudgeonly, and I don't agree with his stances on sort of drugs and stuff like that. He's too old-fashioned. But foreign policy and geopolitics, the man knows what he's fucking talking about. And when you've got a country that's as corrupt and crooked and as happy to lie, cheat and steal as Ukraine, you don't support them. Doesn't mean you support Putin. And in actual fact, we don't really need to support them, do we? Because everyone's supporting them. The normies are supporting Ukraine. Everybody's on Ukraine's side. You just don't support anyone. Obviously, you don't support Russia. They've just fucking stormed in there. And Putin's an absolute cunt. But you don't have to support anyone. Easy. Easy. when Manchester United play Chelsea, I don't support. Oh no, actually, that was a bad analogy to pick because I fucking hate Chelsea. I'm a Borough fan. That's due to an ancestral grudge, by the way, like the dwarves from fucking Warhammer. We have a book of grudges up north, and apparently in a Zenith Data Systems Cup, a load of Chelsea fans were in on it because they're all Cockney wankers were all in on it, and they let a load of thugs into the family enclosure and started like filling blokes in when they were with the wives and kids and that. So people from Middlesbrough are raised from a young age to hate Chelsea. So that was a bad one to pick. If Chelsea play West Ham, I don't care who wins. That's how I feel about this. A curse on both their houses. Exactly right. Oh, Rotten Politics got something in common with me. What's the reason for your hatred, Rotten Politics? I'm curious to know. I didn't think Manx were too bothered, but Borough, we hate Chelsea. But yeah, it's bollocks, infantile. So it's so childish it doesn't warrant a response. Not being all out. Stand with Ukraine. Not being that doesn't mean you're pro-Putin, does it? It means I pay attention to the world because I'm not a normie twat, and I don't read The Guardian and take anything the BBC says seriously. So I'm not playing the game, and I'm not interested in rooting for Ukraine or rooting for the Russians. So I'm happy to watch this play out because I already know it's a foregone conclusion. And this is what I was going to say about Putin. The problem with Putin is he doesn't seem to realize that we've already lost. I think Putin's almost in the same place as a lot of conservatives that are still sticking with the Conservative Party. Putin doesn't seem to realize that he's already lost. The globalists have won. And they're getting this new world order, this global, the whole of planet Earth is just going to be one gigantic shit country. And the faster Putin realizes it and just accept it, basically what Putin should do is he should just give up, go on TV and say, we've lost. I knew we didn't have the military capabilities to take and hold Ukraine in the first place, but it was my last desperate gambit to try and bring them back to the table and at least say, all right, to stop all the chew, we'll let you have like Donetsk and Crimea, and anyone who wants to be Russian can go fucking live there. And we won't park any nukes right close to the border. But he must have known that they basically were shagged. We can't win. We've already lost. And I think Putin should just go on TV and say, yeah, we've already lost. People that aren't black-pilled, you need to accept the fact we've already lost. We're getting this new world fucking order. And whether we like it or not, it's been proved for the last 20 years where we've imported literally millions. Literally millions. You know, I don't use the term, the L word. I hate it unless I mean it. Like I said, Sargon, I love watching Sargon, but he always says everything's literally. Literally. It's not literally. Literally blew my face off. It didn't. Your face is still attached. But we imported literally millions. In the last 20 years, we've probably imported what? Does anyone want to give me a ballpark figure? 5 million? Have we imported 5 million people in the last 20, 25 years to the UK? 5 million people with only a GCSE or less, a high school education? Just totally waging war on the working classes. So we've already lost. It was obvious we'd lost by about 2010. We don't get to win. So Putin needs to accept the fact. Yeah, it'll be something like that. We've already lost. And we get the globalism. We get London looks like Paris, looks like Rome, looks like New York. Same brands, same bands, same everything, isn't it? Same food, same clothes, same architecture, big fucking glass dildos that nobody likes. We've already lost. And Putin just needs to accept the fact that he's lost. He should just go on TV and say, it was a last desperate gambit. I knew we couldn't hold it. All we can do is throw ourselves on the mercy of the globalists and say, please don't nuke us. Please don't invade us. Please don't force us to take 20 million adherents regulars at Alan's legendary snack bar. Please don't make us build a few thousand churches with the big golden bell ends on top. Please just try to respect at least some aspect of our sovereignty. But we don't get to win. We don't get to win. Global, it's already happened. Maybe the internet has made it inevitable as well, right? We couldn't stop the immigration problems for the working classes. Because again, I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm one, right? I'm an immigrant. I live in America now. But it's a problem for the working classes. When you just do it the way we've done it in the last 25 years, you're stitching them up. They've got less money, less employment perspectives. The schools are all full. They can't get a dentist appointment. They can't get a doctor's appointment. The fucking roads are all crammed. Like, there's homeless people everywhere. The amount of quality of life issues that have resulted from the globalism for the working class is staggering. And I think that's why a lot of people that are formerly of the left, people like Brendan O'Neill, and shitloads of these old school feminist types are all lefties, but they've started to change the tune because the writing's on the wall. It must be obvious to an old school lefty that globalism is stitching up the working classes. To import 5 million chavvy lads from Eastern Europe and just put them in all the Western European countries, you're just stitching up the working class people that's already there. Like I said, I've got no problem with anybody trying to make the life better, because we'd all do the same, wouldn't we? But they've stitched us all up. Working class people have been stitched up massively. And that's obvious to any old school leftist who was old school left wing and was all about workers' rights and improving the lot for the working classes, because it's obvious to anybody with a fucking calculator. You can't just keep importing working poor from poor nations and expect the working classes in the nations that were comparatively better than those places to have as good a lot as they've had. It's a that is the rubber hitting the road. And it's a fundamental truth that nobody who reads The Guardian or the BBC, because they're all middle class and above, seems to be able to answer that question. You say to someone like Owen Jones, how do we move 50,000 broke Polish blokes to Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, Stockton-on-Tees and Newcastle, and that not negatively affect their lives in some way? And because the globalist opinion is, yeah, but their life, your life as a working class chav in Hartlepool is better than the life of a working class chav in Lithuania. So therefore, it's moral to import all the working chavs from Lithuania and put them in Hartlepool. And I see where it's coming from. There is a logic to it. If you're a globalist, where you just think people in the third world are down here, working poor in the Western world are up here, everybody else is up there. Therefore, it's moral to get all the people down here and put them up there. And if that makes everybody who's up there more like down there, well, that's still all right. That's still moral. It's better for them. But like I've said, it's so obvious to anybody who's working class that you mainly have to look after yourself. So if you know that importing 50 million working class chavs from all around the world to Western Europe is going to be good for the working class chavs from the third world or Eastern Europe, but bad for the working class chavs that you've already got in Western Europe, you're obviously thinking this is going to do good for the world because we're increasing the amount of happiness throughout the globe. But if you're not a globalist and you just live in your own country, and really, it's sad that there's people in Somalia who can't afford to eat, but really you're worrying about the lives of your children and your grandchildren. It's almost pathological altruism. It's almost absurd to tell a working class person, listen, your children and grandchildren are going to get stitched up, but you're helping millions and millions of Afghans and Somalis and Moroccans and Algerians, because humans don't work that way, do they? Again, this is all common sense stuff, and I'm coming at it from a centrist position. I've never had any aggression towards anyone from a working class background, regardless of where they're from, because I'm working class and I know how hard it is. I'm not going to slag a Lithuanian off for wanting to have a better life for his kids. But what I'm saying is you can't expect the working classes to put strangers on par with their own children and grandchildren. You just can't expect that. But the globalists do expect it. And this is what I'm saying. You don't get to choose because they know that you will choose your own kids and your own grandkids. And the globalists don't want that. They want the whole fucking planet to be treated. It's like a project for them. They perceive this world where they can make the whole world better. So you're getting it anyway. And if that shaves, let's say you can do it on a scale, 100%, the happyometer, right? If the working class chavs in the West are at 50% on the happyometer, and all the people in the third world are at 20% on the happyometer, the globalists want to get everybody up to about 40. And they say, yeah, you'll lose 10% of your happyometer in the West, but we'll get the whole rest of the world will go up 20%. So therefore, that's a net gain of 10%. And they know that the working class chavs are around the world will say, no, but that's worse for our kids, our own flesh and blood. So fuck them. I'm going to say it's sad that people in Ethiopia and Somalia and Rwanda are having a bit of a shit time of things, but I'm more worried about my children and my grandchildren than I am about them because I don't know them. Any logical human with a fully functioning brain knows that's an acceptable and reasonable thing to say. But the globalists who don't fucking care. They want the whole world dragging up a little bit. And if that stitches up everybody in the West, fuck you. That's their attitude. And again, I do understand the twisted logic behind it, but this is what I'm saying, and that's what I'd say to Putin. You just have to accept the limits of one man's power. We've already lost. You can't have legions of trillionaires and billionaires doing all this sneaky shit and expect us to be able to stand against it. When have the working classes been able to stand against it? The only time the working classes stand against it is when you get a revolution and everybody dies and there's total chaos. So you can't advocate that. Because if you end up with a revolution, or you're calling for revolution, you're as daft as the communists. What I'm trying to get at is, yeah, we've lost. And I don't see how you can change it. And I can't advocate a way of changing it, which makes sense to me because a revolution is terrible. Like, if we're all just having our quality of living dragged down, yeah, it's shit that you can't get a doctor's appointment and a dentist appointment and you can't get good jobs and your kids are going to struggle more than you did. But that's probably better than fucking full-scale revolution all around the Western world and millions of people dead and just a total shambles. So I don't know what the solution is. But the point I'm getting is we have already lost and there doesn't appear to be any way of fixing it. So what you do is you do what the Bootneck does and have a crack with it and just fucking chuckle as best you can as everything goes to shit. Because there is humour to be had from that, right? That's working class humour is always in the laughter at the gallows humour, the laughter at the situation you find yourself in. I'll tell you a really good quality of life issue that I think I want to remember. Anybody from under the age of about 40 will remember this. When I was a kid, so this is the 80s, when we had a proper managed migration process, and we did get immigrants, but it was managed, and you'd get like whatever 20,000, 30,000 a year or what have you. There was an abundance of stuff. Because most people were paying taxes and we weren't wasting it. We weren't literally throwing trillions and trillions of fucking dollars, pounds, euros, or didn't exist then, at the third world. There was an abundance of stuff. And when I was a kid, I remember getting sick when I was about 8. Say I was 8. So what? 1987. And I was like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. My ears are killing me. I had like an infection or whatever. I was proper sick. My mum phoned the doctors. And anyone will remember this. I'm sure, and everyone under 30 is going to fucking have the mind blown here because you'll be like, You used to ring the doctors in England in the 80s, right? And the doctor used to rock up at your house the same day. How mad's that? Like you literally phone the bloke and then 2 hours later, a fat geezer, I think he was called Dr. Dunn, and he had a big ginger beard. 2 hours later, a fat bloke with a ginger beard walks in my house and he's like, oh, what's the matter with him then? Let's have a look. Can you imagine that now? This is just one of the 500 examples I can pick for how the working class has been royally stitched up. I guarantee if you're a millionaire or a billionaire and you're living in fucking Kensington, you've still got someone who you ring, probably you pay for, obviously, and he'll rock up at your house. But when we were bairns in the 80s, You just ring them and they tip up at your house 2 hours later. That's how easy it was to see a doctor. And then we let in 10 million, 10 million people over a 25-year period, and we go, we can't get a doctor's appointment. This is weird. No, not weird. How is it weird? This is why I'm constantly astounded. Like, people can't see the obvious. You can't just keep adding people. Think about it, a 4-year-old can do the maths. You know, where you do maths where there's pictures of jugs full of water. It's like a 4-year-old knows that you can't just keep pouring water into a jug and it's not going to overflow. Resources are finite. Yeah, oh my God, look at this fucking idiot. He's back. Isn't that evidence of the way saying, yeah, right, or go and find the statistics for the funding for the National Health Service. Has it ever dropped in 25 fucking years? Answers on the back of a postcard. This is the obviously ridiculous and absurd fallacy that the left-wing fucking degenerates have been making badly for 30 years. Is that whenever there's a problem, it's just money. We just haven't given enough money, right? Think of it this way. If you've got a finite, because everything's finite, right? Money and land. If you've got a finite piece of land, can you just keep adding more people to it? Or do you have to stop adding people at some point? It's not money, because the funding's gone up every single year for 30. Yeah, it has to be a two-pronged approach. It can't just be a black hole, a bottomless pit where we endlessly throw more money. Because where does money come from? Production and labor and capitalism. And then what do you have to do? You have to get more people in to create more production and labor and profit and tax. And then what do you have to do? You have to pour more money into the health service because there's more people arrive. Fucking hell, this is weird. And they go, oh yeah, but all loads of young people come. Yeah, and guess what? They fucking age. I mean, there we go. Rocket science. The NHS hasn't got a funding problem. It's got a people problem. How much more do you want us to spend on the bastard NHS? It's ran like, well, I was going to say they couldn't run a piss up in a brewery. And they definitely can't run a fucking health service. If you can't run a piss up in a brewery, how are you going to run a health service? It's a shambles. The money we waste, it is a shambles. The idea to throw more money at it is the exact reason that we're in this mess, because midwits, lackwits, and incompetents listen to people like Maya Coulter there and go, it just needs more money. If you just throw money at things without actually thinking it through and having a plan, the money just gets pissed up the wall. So, no, it doesn't need more money. I'm not saying it needs to be cut aggressively, but it definitely needs to taper off when we say, right, it's pretty much got enough money. Let's spend it more wisely. It's fucking lunacy. It's lunacy. We just keep importing people. So, like I said, that's just one good example. One good example. You can't get a fucking doctor anymore. Could you get it 25 years ago? Yeah. Did we spend less on it? Yeah. Dentist appointment. The roads are all full. There's tramps everywhere. The jobs, there's not as many jobs. The working class's wages have gone down. It's fucking overpopulation. Again, what do you want us to do? Miracle more land out of our arseholes? If houses built themselves and hospitals staffed themselves and money fucking printed itself and it actually worked, then I'd be all for letting 100 million more people into the UK, but it doesn't, so I'm not. Simple, isn't it? Anyway, that was like a 5-minute rant. I never even covered any news yet. The short version is, we've already lost, ladies and gents. Putin is simply going through the same motions as we're at. He doesn't understand that we've already lost. So there's no point in getting worked up about it, Vlad. This poorly conceived invasion, you just should have accepted the fact that you've already lost. We don't get to win. You've already lost. All you can do is throw yourself on their mercy and say, please don't nuke me, and please don't fucking take over my country, and please don't force me to import 35 million blokes, fighting age blokes, because there's hardly any women and kids. Again, look at the news. What's the footage? Please don't force me to import millions of fighting age men. That's all you can do. you're not going to get anywhere with an ill-conceived war. And you're not going to get anywhere with the ballot boxes. You're not going to. We've already lost. So just accept the fact, like we do, and have a bit of bants on the way there, and tighten your belt as best you can, and just crack on. Because there is no point in thinking that you could make a difference, because you can't. Mark Twain's famous one: "If voting made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it." That's as true now as it's ever been. Become a prepper. Yeah, I advocate being a prepper. That's quite a cool idea. Me and my missus were talking about this, right? And she was saying to me, what's the point in surviving? Like, if everything's gone to shit, what's the point? And I was like, do you know what it is with me? I think it's just sort of like a bootneck thing. Like, I stubbornly just want to win. Like, I can handle the world going to shit, but I just want to know I live longer than you. Like, it's a weird thing. As long as people like all the actors and the singers are starving to death a day earlier than me, I'm happy. I just want to win. So I know that life would be completely shit, but I still want to fucking beat everybody. Probably illogical. Like I said, it's why I did my fucking YouTube channel for no reason other than I want to be proven right in a public space, which is completely illogical, isn't it? It's completely illogical. It doesn't get you anything. And a few thousand people see it, and that's it. It's like no real point in it, is there? But I still do it. I still want to be proven right in a public space. And yeah, I've done that loads in the last couple of years. COVID and Ukraine war and all sorts of things. So yeah, fucking brilliant. There's a quote from Rotten Politics: "If voting didn't matter, they wouldn't get to ask him." See, do they still have a preference though? Rotten Politics is my point. They've still got a preference, haven't they? Like, voting doesn't really matter, but they still have a preference. Like I said about the cancer one, right? I'd rather have bollock cancer than prostate cancer. Doesn't mean it's good, right? So they're still going to be angry when somebody pops up, and they still wanted Jezza instead of Boris, didn't they? But Boris is still going to fuck us. It's not like it's good for us. So I don't see anything changing unless you get a genuine bunch of normal blokes trying to get into power, and women. Some of them are based. Although, ladies, I apologise for sounding a little bit sexist, but you guys don't vote as sensibly as the men, do you? Have you seen the statistics where if only men voted, if only women voted? Lasses are slightly less sensible than blokes when it comes to voting. That sounds terribly sexist, but Bootneck tells the truth. You can't lie with numbers. The polling numbers suggest, and obviously you've got sensible women like Maggie and Kate and all these girls in here, but if you have to stereotype, women are slightly less sensible than men when it comes to voting. So yeah, that's shit, innit? But unless you do get a real change and somebody new rocks up, I just don't see it happening. So yeah, I think they've got a preference, but it's almost worthless. Right, I'll tell you what, we'll just do at least one or two stories before I bugger off. So the first one I wanted to do was I listened to Mark Steyn's. Mark Steyn, by the way, is fucking brilliant. I was pissing myself laughing listening to him. Did anyone watch Mark Steyn's show on GB News where he was talking about Boris? He said Boris's name's a bit Russian. We should get rid of it. Seeing as we're now all on board with the rank Russophobia, we should stop using the word Boris, because that's a Russian sounding name. Why doesn't he go by Al Johnson? And then he went, oh yeah, that's because Al Johnson, he might get mistaken for Al Jolson. And that name's already taken because that's the Prime Minister of Canada. And he was like, Mummy. Anyway, I was pissing myself. I think he's class, Mark Steyn. Out of all of the commentators that I watch on telly, I think Mark Steyn's the funniest. Most of them don't have a good sense of humour, but Mark Steyn does. That's where Peter Hitchens falls down, doesn't he? Peter Hitchens has got a lot of intelligent things to say, but he's a proper miserable bastard. He doesn't have any crack at all. Like, he's I think I've seen him smile about 3 times. Mark Steyn's class, so he's my favourite. And they were talking about William and Kate's royal tour, right, in Jamaica. And I want to talk about that because it made me think, this piece is nonsense, right? I was reading it and they said, the missteps that overshadowed the tour. When you look at it, They're only missteps if, again, you're a BBC activist and you've already made your mind up about what you think about things. If you're an impartial observer and you want to look at this story and the photographs and stuff and watch a bit of footage of it going off, I don't think you'd sit there and go, oh yeah, missteps there. But fucking, I can't believe William and Kate is so stupid. The stupidity of William and Kate. I don't believe that's what you'd think, because they seem to have done as good a job as you can expect from a young couple who were trying to step into the Queen's shoes. Oh yeah, he does have his moments. Occasional dry wit, he's good, but he's nowhere near Mark Stein. It's just too serious. Christopher was better than Peter. I'll give you that. Anyway, so just look at this. Look at the wording they use in this story, and we'll quickly briefly talk through it. So again, to me, that there's nothing wrong with that picture, because I'm not a woke ideologue. I just think, yeah, the royals. So obviously you can't have a mob of people pawing at them. And there's a couple of security guards there, and they're saying hello to the locals who look pleased. You know, look at the faces there. They're all smiling and waving. They want to touch him. It says, Palace staff must be wondering how the defining image of the Cambridge's trip to the Caribbean was not the explosion of joy and pleasure that greeted the couple in Kingston. Instead, what looked to many as some sort of white saviour parody. So I'll stop you there, BBC. When you say what looked to many, you're once again displaying your naked political advocacy. Normal people didn't see that and go, oh my God, white saviour parody. Normal people don't even know the term white saviour parody. The only exposure normal people have had to that phrase is laughing their asses off when shit for brains wokesters like David fucking Sweat Bucket Lammy. Have you ever seen a photo of David Lammy where he doesn't look like he's just got out the shower? He is one sweaty bastard, David Lammy. He's never, the only exposure people have had to that phrase is laughing at David Lammy. Because Stacey Dooley went into the fucking third world, did good deeds and helped children. And David Lammy goes on fucking Twitter and goes, white saviour. Because he's a communist and he's been brainwashed and he just spews out these commie talking points. Normal people didn't see that photograph and go, oh my God, it makes me cringe, white saviour. Normal people see that. You show that photo to any, stop someone in the street and say, what do you think of that? They'll go, oh, is this Wills and Kate on a royal tour? Ah, that's good. The locals look pleased to see him. That's it. They won't go, actually, this speaks about power and privilege dynamics and colorism and informing outcomes and blah, 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 blah. Nobody gives a fuck. Wokesters, middle class, university educated wokesters, you don't see reality. Nobody cares. They don't see that and think of it as negative. So this is bollocks. This headline is bollocks. The write-up is bollocks. It's only overshadowed if you're a communist. It was a bad misstep for a couple who were surprisingly media savvy. It wasn't. It wasn't. You think it was a misstep because you're a communist. That's why. If you're a normal person, you just go, oh, look at that. That's nice. Done. So, yeah, bollocks. Bollocks. Should we just stop? No, I've got 10 minutes. We'll keep going. The first engagement in Belize was hurriedly cancelled following a protest by some residents. Another protest, albeit a small one, popped up on the day. And again, that's not a big deal. They're cancelling them because our leaders are cowards and a tiny number of people gob off and they instantly shit themselves and run away. The whole reason any of these places are protesting is because we've allowed the Chinese to throw resources at them and brainwash the fucking locals. St. Helena and Barbados and all these places, they're getting paid by the Chinese. And that's where it's coming from. Because our leaders are stupid and useless and they're not forming a counter-argument. And I'll walk you through a counter-argument when I get to the bottom of this story. Because I can do it. And I'm not a fucking media-savvy, royalist, people-watching, historian, fucking woke educator from Oxford or Cambridge. I'm just someone who occasionally reads history books. It's all you need. And some common sense and a spine, which is what all of our leaders are lacking. the PM declared they'd rather not have the Queen as head of state anymore. And the Land Raider may have been intending as a charming homage, but instead, no, clunky reminder, yeah, you're all slaves. Like that, again, they look at that picture and they go, oh my God, that just screams white supremacy, basically neo-Nazi, William, practically Hitler, and who's that fucking Goebbels with a wig on stood next to him. It's bollocks. But may have felt like a colonial days, because you're a communist and you see what you want to see. There's Raheem behind oh, look, see, Raheem's stood behind a fence touching people. Oh, no, that's all right. That's all right. That's good, that. Because Raheem Sterling's got a slight tan, so he can do what he wants. It's all bollocks. It was a reminder of the depth of complexity, and power and privilege and truth to power and fucking bollocks. Oh, yeah, look, they got a warm reception pretty much everywhere they went. I'll just slip that in there and hope nobody notices. Yeah. Look at that picture. You see, this picture to me screams race hate. Look at that. The banging on them bongos have just culturally appropriated them fucking bongos. This balding white upper crust patriarch, yeah. And that she's showing her ankles there in Jamaica. That's not on. And she's got a bongo as well. And you can see with his face twisted in rage and hate, the contempt of the man sat next to Kate there. You can tell he's thinking, this fucking white slut, she should be cleaning my toilet. I hate these people. I hate them. In fact, he's only sat there because someone's got a Luger pressed into the base of his spine. Sit down. Take the photo, you cunt. So that photo just screams hate, race hate, cultural appropriation, fascism. Look at the way he's holding that bongo. Like he wishes it was a small child's head and he was just pushing him under the water. Drown, you little foreign twat. That's what that photo says to me, because I'm totally normal and I'm definitely not an unhinged BBC wokester who sees fucking their insane ideology in everything they look at. The cunt who wrote this story, who is it? Johnny fucking Diamond. Johnny Diamond would see race hate in a packet of fucking peanuts. He'd be like, oh, actually, you know, like these people, the deconstructionists, actually the shape of this peanut is intentionally done. It symbolizes the heads of the slaves on the first boats out of Africa. And the salted covering, that symbolizes whiteness. It's all over. They've dusted the slaves in whiteness. Because salt's white, yeah? They've dusted the slaves in whiteness. And that is actually a symbolism towards open white supremacy, which is what the royal family and the peanut manufacturers all advocate. Yeah, and that's definitely normal. This picture here, look, the crowd, they might all be smiling, but really that's because in Jamaican culture, you smile when you hate something. So all those people there, really, they just want to kick William to bits and stake Kate to the floor and fucking gang rape her. That's what they want to do there. So how did Trenchtown end up as a PR disaster? Have you noticed how they've subtly changed the wording there as well? It's gone from at the top, a couple of little missteps here, and at the bottom, oh, fucking hell, Trenchtown, fucking PR disaster. So all bollocks. Total fucking nonsense. And tone deaf moments, Yeah, everyone looks full of hate there, don't they? Same, look at them people. They're all just sat there going, oh my God, I hate everyone. She hates him, he hates her. William's face is contorted into a rictus twisted grin of psychopathic hatred. Kate wants to bludgeon that woman to death with a brick. It's all fucking obvious if you've got a fully functioning brain, like all the people who work for the BBC. So let me tell you some facts to end on, right? This is total fucking bollocks. Yeah, PR disaster, bollocks. Let's end on some facts, right? Fact of the matter is, slavery is as ancient as human history. From the first moments that we crawled out of the oceans and learned to walk on 2 feet, man has waged war upon man. Oh, the humanity of it all, you might say, if you're some delusional Guardian reading, what's the polite word? Cunt. You might think that everything's been airy-fairy and the Persians were... I really did get in an argument with a guy on Quora who said that the pyramids in Egypt were actually built by, pro-LGBT workers collectives. It was some fucking bollocks. It's like, no, there were public works and everybody involved was a volunteer and all this fucking shit, right? Mankind, I'm not a religious man. Like most people of the left, which is what I am, ultimately. I'm just not a communist. Mankind evolved because I'm not a man of religion. If you disagree, like I'm sure Sadwings does, I'm sure I've got a few American Baptists in here. Unlike the commies, I like a bit of dissent and disagreement. It's fun to talk about these things in the pub. But from the first moments that we crawled out of the oceans, humanity has waged war upon itself. People have been chattel for millennia. There's disagreements in the biological community about how long we've been in the current form. It's about 200,000 years or thereabouts. And for those 200,000 years, 99.99% of it was spent waging war on each other, dying in your 20s because your teeth were fucked, being scared of evil spirits and witch doctors and demons and fucking voodoo and all of the absolute bollocks. Slavery is as old as humanity. The Persians did it, the Iranians did it, the Turks did it, the Mongols did it, and the Africans did it, and the Europeans did it, and everybody's always done it. And that's just the way we fucking are. The idea that the Japanese were bayoneting babies in Nanking in the fucking 20th century, bayoneting babies, stacking them up as high as they'd go, right? The Ottomans, the Portuguese, sent 6 million slaves across the Atlantic. The Portuguese was shocking. The French were way worse than the British. And you can look at Jamaica and then compare it with like Haiti, which is fucked, and they had to pay for their own freedom. Basically, the argument Wills and Kate should give is simply this. Instead of comparing us to a fictional society that has never, ever existed, compare us to everything else. That's the only thing you can do. The only thing a realistic, logical person can do is compare what exists to other things that exist. You can't just say the British Empire was bad, therefore the Urgrug Empire that I've just invented in my mind, they were sound as fuck and they'd never do anything bad to anyone. Their empire would have never ever had a slave and never ever kill anyone. Their soldiers would all have like daisy chains and daffodils and fucking goats, and they'd just stroke the goats aggressively, and that'd calm people. A tribesman runs over with a fucking bone through his nose and a machete, and you just hold the goat up and give it a stroke, and he goes, "Fuck it, I'll join your tribe." That's not how it works. So the Portuguese were massive slavers, the Turks were massive slavers, Askia and Songhai slavers in Africa. Everyone's at it. Everyone's at it. And out of them all, the only one that ever conceived of the idea of ever getting rid of the fucking practice, and this isn't just a small period of time, it wasn't the only people to think of it in 50 years or the only people to think of it in 100 years. It was the only people that have ever thought of doing it in the whole of human history, said, actually, probably morally wrong this, proud to say Yorkshireman was involved, William Wilberforce. Apparently he was so angry when he learned about slavery, he used to sit there fuming over his breakfast and say, we have to get rid of this shit. It's immoral. It's deeply immoral. A lot of Christian beliefs involved in that as well, with the evolution of the religion. And they went, you know what? It's out of order, this. It might have been all right for centuries, but we're a bit more enlightened now. We've gone through an enlightenment. We now consider ourselves genteel and educated men, and we think this is fucking immoral. And unlike the French, who forced the Haitians to pay for their own fucking freedom, the British used the taxpayers' money, so working class people, ladies and gentlemen, to pay off all the slave owners. They finally put an end to slavery. So yeah, William and Kate should have said, of course we did wrong. But so did the Japanese in the 20th century, and the Germans, and the Ottomans, and the Turks, and for anyone you can possibly think of. So basically, humans are assholes, and we've been assholes for thousands of years, but we're slowly making progress. And I would just implore you to read the history of other nations that were currently suffering under the yoke of the Portuguese or the Spanish and the French and the Americans. The slavery in America has got very little to do with the British. Of course, we're involved in transport, hence Edward Colston and the like. But there's a reason why the population of the United Kingdom, as late as 1940, was 99.99% white. And it's because we just weren't the same animal. You're laying crimes at our door that we don't deserve. And if you read a couple of long books, you can learn about it. Yeah, British Empire bad. Someone on Twitch, very bad. Well, I'm not arguing for the Empire. It's 2022, for fuck's sake. What I'm saying is, you compare like for like. It was the age of empires. And the Ottomans were doing it, and the Persians have done it, and the Egyptians and the Romans and everybody else. Nobody's saying, fucking ancient Rome was great, we should go and do that. Oh, yeah, and the Ottomans, they were fucking sound. Let's reinstall that. What I'm saying is, human history is messy and bloody. And to just pretend you live in a vacuum, and if it wasn't for the British Empire, everything would be golden. If the British Empire didn't exist, if that island had vanished under the ocean with tectonic plate movements 500,000 years ago, the world would still have chaos. Total chaos. Would the Americans, if they'd have took over the whole world in fucking 1805, would things be better or worse? The French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, that was shocking. So why fucking fixate on one of them? When the whole, like I said, the Japanese were doing fucked up stuff in the 1930s. Really, really, really fucked up stuff. And nobody talks about that. Literally stacking babies up on your bayonets in the 1930s and go, oh yeah, well, the Brits were cunts in the 1700s. I mean, come on. Just apply some common sense. I'm not excusing the worst excesses of the British Empire. I'm saying you could only compare humans against other humans. And it's been a bit of a shit show for 200,000 years. This whole thing, picking on the Brits, seems a bit fucking childish to me. Go and have a look at the Turks. 15 million they killed, didn't they? And they used to castrate all the men, rape all the women, and then murder all the babies. I mean, come on. Just have a read. Have a read, Jamaicans, and make your own mind up. But I would posit that you haven't been told the full story, lads. You haven't been told the full story. Right. I'll end it there, ladies and gents. That was nearly an hour. You can have that for free, you twats. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. Jamaica will be free. Yeah, well, hey, that's fine. I don't care. I think you'll find most people living in the UK really don't care. It's up to them, isn't it? I'm not saying they shouldn't be free. I'm simply saying what they're bringing up the old shit for when much worse things went on, and it probably would have been doubly fucked if the frogs were in charge. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Toodle pip.